Okay.
Can you hear me?
Let's. Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Good to hear you. And let's get started. So, uh, welcome to IETF 111 virtual meeting. And this is the Auto Working Group session. My name is Qingwu, and sit online, Ian and Vijay, we are co-chair of this Auto Working Group. Will host this meeting. Vijay, can you move to the next slide?
Sure. All right. Um, so this is the
So,
Notewell statement. Go
yeah,
ahead. You want?
node, yeah, let me take care of this. So node will apply. Actually, this auto session will automatically record it, and that means if all what you said and present will be deemed as a contribution to the IETF. If you have any IPR or you have been aware of any IPR related to the auto work, please disclose it in accordance with IETF rules. Next. At administrative, actually, we have Media Echo that has already been set up. We will use the Media Echo for the queue control. If you don't speak, please unmute your audio and turn your video off. And before you speak, please start with stating your name. And we need to have a chat subscriber. Actually, for chat subscriber, what you need to do is to relay the comments from the chat room. Any volunteer? Actually, yeah. For blue sheet, actually, we have virtual blue sheet, so your attendance will be automatically recorded. And the notes taker, actually, we actually send a request to the lister, and we have two volunteers. One is Richard Young, and another is Daniel King. And so thanks for that to help take notes. And we have online agenda and also slides. You can follow the link to get access to this material. If you have the problem to get access to it, please let the chairs know. Next. So this is the agenda for today's discussion. First, we will discuss the working group status. I will ask Vijay to give a quick update of document status. And for Alto, we almost finished all the existing worker. We are in the recharting stage. So the second topic, I will ask Martin to provide some guidance for the next charter and future group. And then actually, see Alto and PNIG share a lot of commonality, and Alto focus on network aware application, and PNIG focus on path aware application and networking. So we share a lot of commonality. So we are very glad actually we'll invite PNIG chair Jane and also key speaker Spencer Dakin to give a talk about the PNIG, what the PNIG is doing, what is their scope, what is the current status, how it collaborates with other working group. Hopefully we can find some common interest. And then we'll dive into the charter discussion. As the chair will lead the discussion, introduce the charter, and then we'll reserve 20 minutes to open discussion to the floor. Last, we'll wrap up. And any agenda bash? Seems none. Actually, so Vijay, so I hand over the control to you to introduce document update.
Great. Thank you all. All right. So I think from the viewpoint of the current chartered items, all of the work has been moved towards IESG. We were basically looking at 4 drafts: the performance metric draft, CDNI request routing, path vector, and unified props. Um, the last three, of the last three, two depended on unified props, CDNI request routing and path vector. So they're moving ahead as a cluster, and performance metric is also moving ahead. So from the viewpoint of existing work charter items, I think once they pass IESG and get in with the RFC editor, those will be done. I suspect that there is some questions for the working group authors on the unified props. Uh, the AD had requested a follow-up, so does anybody from the author wants to say something quickly about what the status of that is right now?
Yes, hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I was just about to write on the chat. So, first of all, thank you, Martin, for your review and guidance. We have internally addressed most of the comments, and some questions, actually interesting questions regarding the design and possibilities to improve the design to access better to some information are being discussed among the authors. And the plan is to send an answer to Martin and all recipients next week. The response will be ready next week with a given number of points of discussion.
Okay, great. From the other drafts, I noticed that Martin had some comments on them, but I did not see anything that was blocking or needed any explanation. So unless the authors of those documents want to say something, we can move ahead. All right. There's a queue building up. So Richard, do you want to say something? Richard?
Sorry, I was just in queue. So I like to say something about the path vector document. So so Martin have provided the AD review on July 23rd, but I just thought because the email goes into my spam, so I just replied the email yesterday. So I think maybe we can take a few days and see how Martin and others would respond to the comments.
Okay. Martin, you are also in the queue. Do you want to say a few words?
Just to clarify, right? So I mean, I've not had an opportunity to look at Kai's reply, but yes. So performance cost metrics. Just to run through these very quickly. Performance metrics had. I mean, most of the important comments were addressed, and so I sent it to last call. There were minor comments which might be covered in the latest revision, but either way, they're just nits. Path vector and unified props. Yes, I was hoping for some responses from the authors and probably a new ID in each case before we went to last call. And CDNI request routing is the one I haven't gotten to yet. I think I got all three at once, so it's taking me a while to get through them. But I anticipate certainly no later the end of this month having an AD review for that, and then preferably early in this coming month of August. Thanks for everyone's work on this.
Great, thank you. Then if there is no further questions, I'll turn it back to you, Shin.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Vijay. Thanks, Martin, for response. And so for next agenda item, we'll invite Jane and Spencer to join and present the PIG introduction. Yeah.
My AD bit here.
Yeah. So Vijay, probably we need to switch slides.
Right. Well, I don't have any slides, so this should be easy. I wanted to take about 5 minutes just to talk about the state of the working group and its future. I wanted to be really just open and transparent with everyone about where things are. When I took over as the AD and we were wrapping up these documents, we started discussing a recharter, and I tried to understand what the status of this protocol was on the internet. And at the time, there were a number of reports and kind of secondhand comments that this was deployed in a number of different places, and the people were actually out there using Alto. And we got got a lot of proposed work items that spanned a lot of levels of maturity. Some of them I thought were a little bit researchy, frankly, and a few things have happened since then. One is that it has come to my attention a lot of the things that were believed to be deployments were in fact proofs of concept or experiments and so on, and that's fine. Like the internet, research is important. I don't want to discuss that it is not. I don't want to suggest that it is not. But the at this moment, I am not convinced that that there are actual Alto applications out there in the real world with consumers, clients going to Alto servers that ISVs have deployed to optimize paths anywhere. That may be the case. I'm saying I don't know. And the IETF is not in the business of extending protocols that are not really being used. So there are a couple things here. Number one, this charter, I have really scaled back to really focus on cleaning up what, kind of closing up some loose ends on the existing Alto protocol. So this is sort of, operations and maybe fixing some H2, H3 issues that are out there. But really the idea here is this should not take a long time. And I really want to give the working group an opportunity to see if the existing leads that it has succeed in getting this thing deployed. And then if that is the case, then we can talk about further extending it. But I think if that isn't the case, then this might be the last iteration of the Alto working group, at least until things speed up. Now, to say a little bit more about this, we have not made it through ISG review on the charter. It is possible this charter could be slimmed down even more. It is also not outside the realm of possibility that we just sort of freeze the working group's work until evidence of any sort of deployment exists. So we'll see how that discussion occurs at the ISG, and I cannot promise you anything there. The second thing I would like to address is that there is a lot of interesting research work going on. I mean, a lot of the proposals I would characterize when we talked about rechartering, a lot of the proposals I would characterize as research. And as it happens, and as much as the ISG is not necessarily about, IETF is not about, research projects, the IRTF is. And in fact, a lot of this stuff would fit very nicely into the PAN-RG. And that was why I asked the chairs to invite some representatives from PAN-RG to come here. I think a lot of the work that has been discussed as potential new work in Alto would fit very nicely in PAN-RG. And in fact, you would get much more robust review, I think, in PAN-RG than you would here. So that's why Spencer and Jen are here to talk about what the opportunities are there. And I would encourage those of you who would like to move forward on this work in the IRTF/IETF to really consider PAN-RG as a somewhere you can go quickly to get some review and make progress on that while Alto kind of catches up with you. And if there are any questions or comments about anything I've said, I think this would be a good time. Richard?
So
Is that Richard? Do I have my initials right?
yeah, Richard.
Okay.
We haven't seen his audio.
Richard, you have to unmute yourself. Oh, there you go.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great comment. I think one thing really, I do know a couple of pretty reasonable deployments of Alto in the real life, but everything needs to be essentially really clarified and be really documented very well. I think that really is the focus. And eventually, I think that will be the focus in this iteration to essentially get all these people publish all their results and get a publicity. And so I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, I mean, like, I honestly, thank you for sharing that. Like I'm sort of, yeah, I'm glad to hear that this is out there in the real world. And I don't know, I don't want to say that everyone has to show up and like publish results necessarily, but like from actual practitioners who are out there dealing with customers, like for them to come here and help motivate these use cases would be, of these further extensions, would be really valuable. And I think we need to take some time to do that, because my honest perception of the set of proposals we saw, whatever I think it was IETF 107 or 108, struck me as pretty much a research agenda, quite frankly, and that's not exactly the right. This is not exactly the right venue for that kind of stuff. Any other comments and questions? All right. Well, thank you for listening, and I think we'll hand it off to Chin, or maybe directly to the PNRG people.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Martin. So, Jen, the floor is yours.
So, yeah, okay, you sharing the slide deck. Perfect. So, hello. Thank you, Martin, for giving a very nice summary of my talk before I even started. So, why we are here? Because right after this session, next one will be pay energy session, and you are all invited. Actually, I don't know. I suspect half of the audience already know what I'm going to say, because I see a lot of familiar names in the participant list. But anyway, Pass-Aware Networking Research Group. Who are we? What we are doing? Next slide, please. No.
Trying to go ahead in the next slide, but
Next slide, yeah. Okay.
there you go.
Yeah,
Is that the second one?
no, I think slide number 2. I think, yeah, perfect. So, what is Pass-Aware networking thing? Historically, if you think about it, there was some kind of disconnection between endpoints and the networks. Endpoints send packets, and those packets magically reappear on the other side of the network, or maybe not. That's why we have TCP. And from the host perspective, network is a kind of black box, right? Packets in, packets out, you have no idea what's happening inside. And all this like routing carrier IETF takes care of that, right? Obviously, it was a lot of temptation to change that and get some direct or indirect signals about what's going on in the network and use it on the application or transport layer. And Spencer is going to talk about all efforts which been not so very successful in that area. So obviously, it would be actually really nice if networks stopped being a black box for the application, and if hosts could somehow get some knowledge about the available path in the network and make some educated decisions about which path could be used and how they could be used. Well, to some degree, it's already happening, right? If I take this phone, it has number of interfaces. It could make some choices which interface to use when, right? But it's all been, I don't know, how shall I say, not systematic, maybe, right? Everyone is trying to do this, but we did not have a single venue to discuss all of these things. So that's why PNRG is trying to be a place when people could come and talk about how various properties of the network path could be discovered by endpoints. And by endpoints, I can mean basically all layers, their transport application, whatever, and how that information could be used, how decisions could be made about using those paths, and all those related questions. Practically, it means that in our sessions, we see a lot of routing people and transport people and Alto people as well, actually, come and talk about what they think should be happening and what's happening now. So next slide, please. What is currently going on there? like traditionally, what we are trying to do, we're trying to have two parts in our sessions. We try to do some research group items to be discussed, and we normally invite some guest talks from related areas. So we currently have one document which is, I think, going through the IRG poll, which is open questions in path-aware networking. Because we are doing the research, we're trying to do the right thing and start from asking what, not how. So we decided to formulate the questions we need to do research on first. And my co-chair Brian wrote a great document about 8 open questions in path-aware networking. First of all, obviously, we want to define what path is. Surprisingly, there are a lot of opinions about this stuff, how those path properties are represented. And thanks to Teresa and Cyril, we already have a draft which is trying to answer the first question, which is another working group, research group item, path properties document. Secondly, we're trying to define how endpoint can discover those path informations, right? Because those paths might exist in the network, but endpoints need to discover that information and discover it in a reliable way. And after that information is discovered, how the endpoint make decisions about using that information, how to select or best path or maybe multiple paths out of the all available ones. And how that information could be exchanged, what kind of interfaces can transport an application layer to might have to use information about path. Next slide, please. Also, obviously, it all sounds great, but we are not there yet, and it looks like some changes might be required in transport and other layers to utilize it, the path information. So we trying to discuss how those protocols might change to effectively use path-aware networking. And well, if you speak from practical point of view, if you think about it, we might probably, even if we one day IETF designs a perfect path-aware networking architecture, it probably wouldn't be deployed overnight. So most likely we'll start seeing kind of overlay and isolated islands scenarios which needs to be connected. So probably all these things which I've been talking about in relations to hosts will be also applicable to endpoints, channel endpoints, which interconnects isolated islands. So we also need to answer a question if whatever we said before also apply to those entities. And again, back to deployment, is how can we make this path-aware networking scene attractive to operators? What incentive could be? Because obviously quite often what hosts want is quite completely different from the network operator might want, right? That might be some conflict of interest. So we need to find a common ground, and it's probably one of the biggest questions in all of that area. So, as I say, the draft is almost ready to be published. It's in the poll state. And another working group item, oh no, it's not even a working group item anymore. It's the first RFC, the research group, published. Is Spencer one, and floor is yours, Spencer. Next slide, please. I think you are muted. I should shut up.
Is that better? So thank you, Jen.
We can hear you.
Thank you. So this is the RC that Jen was mentioning, and it was basically when we had the first research group meeting. We had a show of hands in the participants of how many people had worked on at least one path-aware networking technology at the IETF that was not deployed. and we got so many hands that cataloging them became the first work item for the research group. The things, like I say, so these are over a period of decades, but they seem to be persistent. They seem to come up again and again in protocol proposals, and they seem to still be a problem the next time. So it seemed useful to write this down. And actually, I got comments from the ISG during ISG review, conflict review, that they really wish that we'd had a document like this a long time ago. But this list informed the the development of the open questions draft that's now in balloting in the IRSG. And actually, we've got 2 yes votes, so it should be approved as soon as we revise it. So the key takeaway is, persistent. Some obstacles are persistent, so keep your eyes open. Next slide, please. So the 2 things that I wanted to, the draft or the RFC is great, but the 2 places I wanted to point you to were these 2 sections in the RFC. One is a summary of the lessons that were learned, kind of high-level summaries for each lesson with pointers to the protocols behind each lesson. And the second one is how to, applying the lessons that we've learned, especially table 1 in that section, which is basically dividing the things that we've learned into things that are always true, things that are variable that you might be able to engineer your way around, and some that are, just flat out research. So that's kind of where the work that's in this RFC ended. So basically now it's up to people with different protocol proposals to look at the lessons we've learned and see if they're tripping over problems that have come up consistently as problems in the past. Jen, we can click on those links if we wanted to, but let's do your last slide first.
The important slide probably is how we can help. I think so. We looked at the proposed charter, and as Martin said already, there are a lot of overlap. For example, when charter says that collect implementation, deployment, and experience, it's exactly what Energy loves to hear. What worked? Actually, as an operational person, I love to hear about what did that work and why. It's normally much more interesting, to be honest. Well, protocol maintenance for existing published protocols, I think it's not really research, it's more like IETF scope. But the next charter item, like developing operation support tool for Alto protocol, well, there are 2 things here. High-level discussion about how to support and what your experience is just perfectly in scope. But if you say young, I will be running away screaming. So no, please. And obviously future use cases, like, it's most definitely in scope for us. So please come and talk to us. We would love to hear it. We always find a slot for you. But yeah, support for modern existing protocols. Again, everything which is already exists, probably support perspective not in the scope, but everything which is about what did we do wrong or what we did right and what to do better next time, please come and talk to us. And I think it's all I have.
Okay. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Spencer. So we have someone in the queue.
Yeah. So thanks, Jen. It's Adrian, and I'm looking at your last slide here, which I think is slide 7, and I sort of understand the extremes on this. So talking about experience and how that plays into Pan-RG, I understand, and talking about future use cases, I understand. What's not quite clear is what your view might be on developing protocol extensions or tweaks within PAN-RG?
Well, it sounds like it more like in scope of IETF, but I would say, yeah, I don't think we are really doing protocol maintenance. But if you come across some corner cases, yeah, we might talk about that, but yeah, I am not sure it might be the best place. Well, if you think about it as a research and experiment, yes, right? I think it's a kind of gray area of overlap. So we can probably talk about that. Again, you see, like, as I say, no young, know this low-level stuff probably would be like, probably it's not the best place here to come to us for this. Does it answer your question, or I just confused you even more?
It's not possible to confuse me even more. I think you answered, and I think the distinction that I heard was the difference between a standards track extension and an experimental extension.
Yes, exactly. I think if I could just dive in, we can do experimental RCs, drafts targeting experimental RCs in the IRTF stream. So I think you're exactly right, Adrian. And you'll notice that I unmuted when you said, I don't think it's possible to confuse me more. So challenge accepted.
All right, quick question. So Richard can continue, or quick comment. It seems to me that there seems to be some synergy between PAN-RG and Alto. At least Alto seems to me, looking at what PAN-RG is doing, appears to give you a standardized way to represent some of these abstract network elements and other properties of paths that you need in PAN-RG. So it seems to me that it gives you those tools at least where you can use a standardized protocol for further extensions. But that's just me looking at it from a 30,000-foot level.
Well, we've seen presentations from Alto. I agree. Yeah, we have a lot of overlap. Alto is one of examples, right, of what PAN-RG is looking at, right? Again, because we're doing research, we try not to develop solutions, right? I think it's more like IETF job to develop solutions.
Understood.
So yeah,
Right.
yeah. So.
Yep. Richard, please go ahead.
Okay, so great. I did read RFC 9049. Is that right, Spencer? 9049. I remember, right? So I think I missed the link already. I believe that's 9049, and I like it. That's a very nice, very well written RFC. So my question would be, would there be interest from PAN-RG? Let's take a look at all those, I think, lessons we learned and apply to the Alto current design. Let's say, imagine PAN-RG as some kind of like young doctor, and then you look at every single protocol as some kind of young model. You want to identify the issues. Would you be interested and take a look at all lessons you learned, and let's try to apply to Alto? Let's say how, in which sense Alto did right, in which sense Alto did wrong, and therefore how to potentially fix it. Would that be a potential topic which would be interesting to PAN-RG?
Well, I will definitely, I think I would invite you to come and talk to the group about this. I cannot answer for the group, right? Because come and present it, and we'll ask the group if there is an interest, right? So I can only say I will probably give you a slot, but it's all the chair could do, right? But yeah, I think like hearing about experience, what went well and what went wrong, and what can we do better, I think it's always a good thing for research.
So I wanted to take a shot at answering Adrian's question, and my view as an AD. When you look at the more interesting, ambitious proposals that we got for when we started talking about rechartering, I think there are two pieces to any like Alto extension, right? There is like, what are you trying to do? What data are you collecting? At what frequency, et cetera? And then there's the grammar of how you express that in Alto. And in my view, that first question about what you're trying to do, like how much data you're collecting, that is like a perfect PNRG presentation, right? And whether you choose to do that in Alto or in something else, that's great. I mean, I think this audience would mostly want to do it in Alto, but to go out and say, look, we tried deploying this. If you want to write an experiment on RSC, that's fine. We tried doing this. These are the results. This is where it didn't work. This is where it did work, or whatever. And I think once there's like research consensus that this is a good approach that is workable, that is the time to take it into the Alto working group and develop and finalize the grammar of how that is done in Alto. Like working groups generally are not solving very difficult theoretical problems, right? And so I don't know if that's helpful, but that's how I think about that separation.
So Luis.
Yeah, thank you. Just some thoughts from my side, from an operator perspective, looking at Alto and PNRG, and I think that something that Jen has commented is quite important. She has differentiated between the how and the what, no? And I think that the Alto is precisely the how, no? The mechanism for exposing capabilities from the network. And also, Alto, let's say, has the possibility of look at what are the existing machinery on IETF for exposing existing information, let's say, while PNRG probably could assist on exploring new capabilities that probably are not available yet. This is at least my view. And also regarding the scope, at least as I see Alto and PNRG, I see Alto more, let's say, closing to the limits of the network, so the infrastructure itself, with the purpose of helping and assisting on the automation in the service provisioning, and so while at least in my understanding, PNRG goes exceeds, let's say, that's boundaries, and also it looks at the endpoints and with these ideas of selecting protocols, and so that probably selecting transport protocols or evolution of the transport, I mean, from the application perspective, so going a little bit beyond, at least in my understanding, from what is the purpose of Alto. So I would like just to emphasize this, that probably the key point here is the how versus the what, and Alto would be the mechanism by now being able to provide what are the existing properties or capabilities or topological information that we have in the network, while PNRG could provide extra or could help to develop new content, new capabilities to be exposed via Alto in the future. That's only my comment. Thank you.
Okay,
that
thank you.
makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, let's move to the next topic. So thanks Jen and Spencer again. Yeah. Okay, so recapture a little bit about the recharter discussion history. Our recharter discussion started from last 3 IETF, especially started from IETF 108 and 109. Actually, we have a lot of problems from operator and OTT, and such as Telefonica, Tessen, and China Mobile. And we, based on the discussion, we come up with long-term recharter. We set the goal a little bit ambitious actually. So we propose a lot of use cases, and this use case actually can be broken down into 2 categories. Firstly, extension to the existing worker, and second is new worker built on top of the Alto base protocol and architecture. For extension to the existing worker, as a so one of the examples is operation automation. So Alto is designed as a query protocols, but it rely on some Alto map database building actually. So operation automation really want to tackle actually how to get the data from different data source via different protocols, how to integrate into the Alto map database. And also for multi-domain setting, actually, Alto original designed for the single domain, but we also see a lot of other use cases. For example, you want to select an end-to-end path that span across multiple domains. So also for Alto deployment, we already have RFC has been published, and we, but in the current chart, we see a lot of new work item like cost calendar, performance metric, path vector. These need to be integrated into auto deployment RFC. So we need such kind of enhancement may be needed. For new worker built on top of the auto protocol, we have some new proposal like a movie, actually, and a cellular related worker. The idea really, you can get the mobile and wireless information to the application and allow the application to adjust the bit rate and improve the user experience, for example, for cloud gaming service. But we have a lot of concern on these use cases. Vijay, next slide. During the last IETF meeting, when we have the recharge discussion, we actually we have too many use cases really distract people, and so we don't know. Many people actually don't understand which use case should be high priority and which one should research based. Actually, Martin also confirmed for this. So, but we also see a lot of interest and activity on some of key topic for operation automation. One of our proponents actually from 2040 card, they really want to focus on the CDN service delivery use cases. They want to integrate the overlay and underlay, and to provide a better service delivery for the CDN service. And the multi-domain setting, we see a bunch of the multi-domain related job that has been posted to the auto working group. Although they get expired, but we see a lot of interest. We also see a lot of research paper, related to this multi-domain setting. And the movie, we see a lot of discussion and a lot of energy over there actually. But this topic actually also relate to what 3GPP is doing. Actually, we see the problem is you lack good collaboration with GPP, and so because it crosses many areas. So this kind of topic may be broken down into different pieces, and some pieces may be research based, can move to some other working group for discussion. So in summary, actually, we think for protocol work, actually really we think we need to based on the strong deployment needs or industry needs. Next. So to address this concern, actually we come up with this short-term recharter, which has already been posted to the list, and we also have a wiki to track this recharter. And the motivation, the goal actually really to build the solid basis for the auto protocol to allow us to work on the immediate issues such as the protocol maintenance, operation support. But in addition, actually we also encourage people to look into some new emerging service, new use cases that we can discuss, investigate some best use cases that can fit for the future work. So this short-term recharge proposal has already been circulated among the chair and auto design team member and every director. And also we post to the list for discussion, actually solicit feedback. It seems actually we have rougher consensus on this short-term recharge contents. Next. So I don't want to repeat this. Actually, this auto in recharter stage, actually Martin has already sent this for ISG review and IB review, and the telechat has already been nailed down. And next. So to discuss our new charter, we first let's revisit the current charter. The current charter, the foundation is all auto-based protocol and auto service discovery and auto deployment. Based on this foundation, actually, a set of the work item has been proposed for the current charter, such as incremental update, which allow you support the server initiated notification and partial update, and also we have auto service discovery, server discovery mix that has been developed by the auto. Actually, we have two RFC related to this work item, and in addition, actually we try to extend auto protocol to convey some of attribute to allow application to know where to connect and when to connect. So we have a cost calendar. Actually, this in the current charter, and this is a work in progress, and we has path vector also work in progress. So next. So take a look at the new charter proposal. So Alto protocol is originally designed for the P2P application, CDN application. I think we should continue to support the CDN application, but we also need to look into some new use cases such as computing aware networking, edge computing, and we think to support some future deployment or future use cases. Actually, the working group actually should look into some new activity. For example, first actually we need to connect implementation, deployment, and experience to help us understand where the auto get deployed, what is issue, and where the auto protocol get breaked, and so this is something we really want to tackle, and this can be documented in some wiki page or in the internet draft. For second work item, actually protocol maintenance for existing published protocol, and I think this is really help you to identify some bug or some issue. You can raise the errata if all of these changes are outstanding and substantial. We can see how to revise the auto-based protocol, make the base document. In addition, we need to develop operation support tools for auto protocols. One example, you can define some OM mechanism or auto YARN model to help to configure the auto server. And also for auto protocol is built on top of the HTTP1. Now actually HTTP2 and HTTP3 actually as a new transport is very popular. So how to migrate to the HTTP2 and 3? Is there any gap? So this is something we need to investigate as well. And in addition, actually for some of new use cases, actually we think we still need more discussion and get it solid. So we allow provide such a venue for people to discuss these future use cases. Next. So this is a milestone and deliverables that we provide. We actually have 4 deliverables. Actually, one is we do the survey for the auto implementation and deployment experience. The second is that we may consider to develop a standardized at least one OM mechanism to support auto, and also third item is auto over the HTTP2 and 3, and we need to investigate to try to identify the gap. And last, actually, if we also encourage auto participant actually to come up with some new use cases. If this case actually can get solid, we can bring to the every director to see how to move forward. Next. So this is a table actually for the new work item document. Actually, we have 4 work items. Actually, for the first implementation report, we already created the wiki page to track the implementation. I see actually Gauke actually helped to create this wiki page and solicit some input from the auto community, and we have some progress actually. And for OM mechanisms to support the auto actually, and we have a new draft being proposed. Actually, I think this is still an individual draft and need more discussion. And we think this head towards the right direction. And for auto over HTTP2 and 3, and we also have a revenue draft to discuss this. And so author can provide update for this kind of work. And use cases, actually, we have a bunch of use cases. So for all these use cases can be broken down into 2 categories: new use cases and updated use cases. For new use cases, we have computer-aware network use cases. We have 2 relevant drafts from China Mobile and Telefonica. And we also have network topology exposure use cases, and which actually from the China Mobile, and error map management exposure use cases from the China Telecom. And for updated use cases, we keep on to tackle the multi-domain use case and mobile cellular use cases. So this multi-domain get update, and so we can see actually where we are. And so that's it. And I pause here to sort of see the feedback and input for these recharter contents. So any comments?
I guess I'm the only one. Right, so I have gotten a little early feedback from the IESG on that charter, and they made the very good point that a lot of the stuff listed in there is just kind of standard stuff that usually isn't explicitly mentioned in charter, like maintenance. We may end up taking out the text, but that would still remain something we would want the working group to continue to address. But yeah, I mean, typically a charter is really just focusing on the document output, which would be I guess the two medium, the second and third work items here. But there's a special emphasis compared to other working groups on this implementation and deployment experience. Just because of, I think, where the state of this, the perceptions of where Alto is in the internet, and if it's actually something it's worth IETF resources to extend it. No one else is in the queue, so I'll keep talking. The new use cases. This is something that requires a little bit of thought, I suppose, but if adoption of Alto is relatively weak, I think it is not super compelling to say, well, here's this other problem out in the internet that we think we can solve, and maybe people will adopt it this time. It would be really nice if we had, if there was designs behind these use cases to go have some POCs and have actual service providers or applications, well, actually both, say, yes, this is actually really something that's promising, and we want the IETF to fix the grammar and make it give it the proper review, and then we will write a big check to deploy this at scale. Like the CDNI case, for example, is an interesting one. I mean, this is the first case of that, right? As I understand it, Alto was originally written for peer-to-peer, and we went and we said, well, it didn't really take off peer-to-peer. Here's the CDN use case. So that was an interesting speculative thing. And if a bunch of CDNs go and pick it up, then we'll have been very successful. But I would have been better, in my opinion, if we had a bunch of CDNs show up here and say, yes, we actually really are very interested in this, and would like to see this as a standard because we were going to deploy it at scale. Just a question of fix the grammar for us. And I'm not sure we were there when we did that, and I don't want to repeat that case.
So just one clarification.
All right, that's all.
Just one clarification. It's not so much that Alto did not succeed for peer-to-peer case. It's just that the peer-to-peer case itself did not succeed in the long run.
Okay. Right. So that's true. I mean, I don't mean to cast aspersions on the work on Alto. Like I don't think there was anything wrong with the work, but regardless of why, just it is not, the work is whether it's a fault of the protocol or of the use case itself and its failure, like it has not been impactful in that sense, and that is not where we want to be.
Yeah, no problem. I'm not saying that you're casting dispersions just as a point of just talking. I think the peer-to-peer use case was very interesting when we started developing it, but the world moved from peer-to-peer. So
right.
It was just
yes. Thank you for the clarification. I that is helpful.
We have Richard in the queue. So Richard.
Okay. So can you hear me now, Tim?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I do have a question to Martin, and I think my understanding is let's really make sure all the use cases will be somehow backed up by deployment. And for example, one use case here is the multi-domain use case. And I don't know if you read the paper, and of course, maybe we shouldn't really only read the paper. We should really get all these people showing up. For example, there's this Ben Knox deployment paper from Connex. I think that's the best paper of 2019. They also got the NRP Best Applied Networking Research Prize. And when I was talking to them, and they mentioned that, at least for their deployment case, multi-domain was a very important use case. Of course, they only mentioned that one. I think unfortunately, they do not show up in IETF. So my understanding, just to clarify, is once say, okay, that's a real use case, that's really driven by real use case, is to get all the people, for example, from Ben Knox, from all their users to go to the IETF. That's a way to demonstrate. Is that really the way I understand it?
I don't want to impose I don't want to make it so that people have to like fly to Madrid or whatever. But I do want to distinguish between like the research arm of a certain organization being interested in a POC and actually like the real dollars being ready to be thrown at this. And you know, I don't have a hard and fast rule on when we've crossed that line, but like an example, something we could see is I know that for the Maui in particular, there was talk about this solving a 3GPP use case. There's a liaison statement from DGPP saying, yes, like we have this problem and we think Alto is the solution. That would be a powerful thing. If there were actually like deployment, so if there was an actual deployment that, you know, had some rough edges based off an early, I mean, these individual drafts obviously have some solutions in them. If people have like run those solutions and there's been a large experiment and people say, yes, this has been a promising experiment, can you please standardize this? That would be, I mean, it doesn't have to be them showing up. It can be an email. It can be a liaison statement. There are a lot of things it can be. But yeah, like just something beyond just research interest is really what I'm looking for.
So Luis,
Luis, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Just to highlight one point that you, Martin, has said, which is the deployment at scale. I think that this is a very key point, and I think that the issue is probably that we are now in the momentum where all these capabilities for automation and so are taking, let's say, the moment of being deployed into the operators network with all the artifacts from IETF, with the YAM models, the netconf protocol, the SDN, the PC. So it's probably now the momentum where probably these deployments at the scale also could, I mean, Alto could be also part of all this deployment of at the scale and all the automation and so. So a few words about the case of CDN that you have mentioned. We can differentiate here the internal CDNs, the ones that are owned by the operator, and that could be, for instance, the Chim mentioned before, the proof of concept that we are working out in Telefonica, clearly with this objective of automation, of improving the delivery of the traffic and so, but with the advantage that both parties, I mean the CDN and the network are under the same administrative umbrella, so making everything easier. And we can differentiate this case from the other case that will be the external CDNs. And here I would like just to bring into your attention some discussions that have happened this week in the CDNI meeting, together with all this initiative which is coming from the Streaming Video Alliance, which is about the interconnection of CDNs. Then this creates a new momentum for Alto, and even Alto is being considered for a couple of drafts, for one regarding the footprint of the CDNs and another one for capacity. So this, I mean, now is where we are reaching the momentum of squeezing and taking profit of all these capabilities, because it's linked with this overall momentum of automation and so that we are foreseeing. And this will happen, and it's clear that the case of cloud computing, edge computing, this will happen in the next future. So these are the kind of use cases that will require of that automation capabilities that probably before could not be exploited as much as we could exploit today with all these artifacts the overall artifact from IETF, YAM models, netcom, the programmability or programmatic interfaces, and so on and so far. Thank you.
Okay,
Keep
thanks,
your work.
Luis. Actually, yeah, we
I
a
just
little bit run out of time. Actually, for people in the queue, maybe, yeah, make a comments briefer. So, Martin, do you want to feedback?
no, I'll let people talk, and maybe we can talk about this on the list. But I would like other
Okay.
people to have a chance to comment.
Thank you. Yeah, Zhou Chen. Zhou Chen, we cannot hear you. Can you unmute your audio? Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Hello. This is Chen Zhou from China Mobile. I want to make some explanation on the network topology expose case for CDN by Alto. The CDN makes use of Noto's server to choose better CDN surrogate. However, CDN may not be able to passively listen to routing protocol, nor may have access to other network topology data. So based on our analysis, CDN is built on top of underlying network, which runs this routing protocols, and the network topology can be gathered via BGP LS netconf YARN. So we are wondering whether we can use netconf protocol to collect this network topology data and translate into auto map data. So in this case, we want to integrate YARN model network topology data into auto map database and to translate network topology data model with YARN into auto map data. So we think the Alto can help to improve the CDN delivery path in this case. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Liu Peng.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
As we proposed the drop-off computing-aware network use case, and since the computing-related routing has and other issues has attract attention, and we think that Auto may do something combined with it. And on the one hand, just like the draft of Luis about the choice of about deployment of the edge service, and on the other hand, it may also help to select the nodes of service. So we just proposed this use case to find out that if Auto has the potential to do some work. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Wei Fang.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, I'm Wei from China Telecom, and I want to introduce the LMAP measurement exposure use case briefly. Because we are as network operators, we always want to better know what happened to our network, and the LMAP framework defined in IETF provide a good tool for us to collect the network measurement results. But traditionally, this measurement results is a CLV file, which is not convenient. And our consideration is to use Alto protocol to retrieve potential aggregated network performance measurement results for a certain network. And in this way, the type of aggregation can be selected as needed to get the desired measurement results. And so this is the motivation to propose the LMAP use case, and we'll always welcome the comments and input. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So Fuyexia, do you have anything to add?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I want to do some explanations about the computing aware use case. We think that the collaborative scheduling of the computing and the network resources requires the discovery of the deployed network resources and also computing resources. So we hope that to extend the Alto to support the queries of the computing resources and network resources. And also, as mentioned in the draft, including the static information and also dynamic information. And we think that Alto can assist in deciding which route to choose and also which computing node to choose. That's for the explanation. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So we need to wrap up actually. I think in this meeting actually we hear good talk from the PNIG. We see actually a good synergy with PNIG. The PNIG will happen after auto meeting. If you participant actually are interested in the PNIG topic, feel free to attend. And so BJ, Ian, do you have anything to add here?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Nothing to add from my side.
Okay. So Martin, anything else?
Thank you, Chin, for driving this. And I think the other thing we should, and I do want, and I know we're over, but I do think we should take at least a moment to recognize VJ, who has been a chair since at least 2013, although maybe earlier. I got confused on this in an earlier conversation, and he is stepping down after all his work to advance the many specs that are now on my desk, and they're good specs. So thank you for that. And so as we wind down that work, VJ is stepping away. Jin, of course, is here now driving things, and I think if we get the charter done and through, then we'll allow Jan to break free as well and give Chin a new chair with fresh energy, a new co-chair with fresh energy. So thank you, VJ, for everything you've done for Alto and for the IETF, and we hope to see you at the next time we actually see each other in a live meeting.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all for the opportunity, and it's been a great pleasure. Thank you very much.
And
okay,
I hope that.
Thank you.
And I hope we see many of you at PNRG in about 23 minutes.
See you guys.
Thank you. See you.
See
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.